Hello and welcome to another edition of the DTF podcast. It is the Dauster, TO, and Fanta podcast. We are live right now. It is Monday, November 28th, 9:57 in the AM Eastern Standard Time, the only legitimate time zone. We are fresh off of what was one of the best sports weekends I think I can ever remember. We had World Cup. We had college basketball noon until 2 a.m. We had 2 days full of NFL football. We had a Saturday with one of the biggest college football games that you are ever going to see with Ohio and Michigan, Ohio State. And I almost said Ohio and Michigan State, Ohio State and Michigan. It was, if you really wanted to, you could wake up at 5 a.m. and be up until 2 a.m. every day for the last 4 days and be watching good actual sports that I cared about, right? It was an unbelievable weekend, and throw in the fact that you also got to celebrate Thanksgiving, which to me is the single best holiday on the calendar. You had Thanksgiving leftovers. There was no reason to not start drinking at like 10 a.m. It was unbelievable. I had so much fun over the course of the last 4 days, and now I get to talk about it with you two gentlemen. So, John Fanta, T.O., Terrence Oglesby, how are we doing, guys? How was your weekend?
Oh, terrific. Thanksgiving was a resounding success. Deep fried turkey is the only way to do turkey. Thanksgiving was awesome, glorious, all of the above. You're right. It always delivers the goods. And this week always delivers the goods. Now you compound that with the World Cup and with Ohio State, Michigan in an epic game. I know Ohio State fans are absolutely ticked off and want to fire their coach. I have so many takes on that. It's good for the rivalry that Michigan has finally been able to answer the Buckeyes. And Jim Harbaugh lost 5 in a row. Credit to Michigan for sticking by him when no one thought they should have. Well,
they tried to get rid of him. they tried to send him off to the NFL. They cut his pay in half. That's what we did to T.O. And T.O. came out with some bad takes. We're like, yeah, T.O., we're cutting your pay in half. You got to get out of here.
Waivers.
Right.
We're sending you off. You're off to the Eye on College Basketball podcast. You're not here on Field of 68 anymore. How you doing, man? How was your Thanksgiving? You were in the Bombers.
It was good. I was down at the Battle for Atlantis. I feel like I've said that a billion times, but it was awesome. And not only that, the Butler BYU game wasn't the most glorious game. So I actually got to go and eat Thanksgiving dinner with the family. So there was no point for me to really stay there. So ended up going, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but it's so good. The buffet at some of these big resorts are so good on Thanksgiving. They're insane. Now, was it a home cooked meal? No, it wasn't, but it was still as close as you could be without being Mama's cooking. And I don't have that ability to have Mama's cooking anymore. So it was the next best thing. We had a terrific time. The kids had a great time while I was down there watching games. And you said there were a bunch of other games. I didn't watch a single other sport. It was all college basketball all weekend. It was a great weekend for college hoops. But we're full go now. All gas, no breaks at this point. We're full go. There's no more warm-up week like we had at the beginning of this season. We're right in the thick of it. And it's performed to where we thought it would. It's been that good.
Yep. I had So in my office, I have 2 flat screens on the wall. Mm-hmm. I have a 28-inch monitor that I connect to my laptop. And I have a 32-inch monitor on the desktop that I have, right? So I have 4 big screens when I'm sitting in my office, and I can put pretty much anything on. But during Thanksgiving, I didn't want to be stuck in my office the whole time, right? So I pulled the Apple TV from upstairs and I set it up in our main room. I pulled the Apple TV from my office and I set it up in the main room. I had bought 2 extra TVs down. So the way that my living room is set up is you have the big TV on the wall and there's 2 little built-ins here that we use to store kids' toys. And I just set the TVs up on top of that. And my wife on Thanksgiving morning came down and she walks in and she's like, "Do we really need 3 TVs in here?" And I looked at her dead in the eye and I said, "Yeah, games to watch." And she was just like,
"God bless you."
One of these. She gave me one of these with the eye roll. But hey, look, you know what? Her dad loved it when he was down here. My son is he's all locked in on sports now. So he was sitting there watching the games with me. We had the USA England game on, and my son had his USA t-shirt on. My daughter had on her red, white, and blue stuff. It was so we turned it into a whole event. It was all I had so much fun this weekend. I wish we could do it.
Now you're wearing a t-shirt that says "Trophy Husband," which is
an oxymoron.
Yeah, that's another eye roll.
Do you know another eye roll? Yeah, but do you know who bought this shirt for me? My wife. So that's proof that's proof that is probably true, right?
Right. Exactly.
Right.
She knows that you've said this to her before, so now she's getting you a shirt because she doesn't want to be reminded anymore. No, that's a good shirt. That's a good shirt. It was a great weekend, and it was a terrific Sunday. And we learned about these teams. We learned about these teams more than we had 2 weeks into the season because, guys, there's something to be said about everyone's always like, well, this is NCAA tournament like. Well, it kind of is, but it actually isn't. You know why? You have less than 24 hours. You're literally playing and hoop it again. And I actually think for some of these teams are better suited to just get right back on the floor and play rather than like have the window of time before their next game. And I think that's what we saw. You when you tip off a game, and Terrence, you know this better than I do. Like if you're in a rhythm, you just want to keep playing.
Right.
And I think for some of these teams this past week, once they got into a rhythm, and we're going to get to those teams, they were a freight train. There's nothing stopping them. They probably all want to play again, despite having to travel home. So I think this past week was revealing. It does show preseason polls, guys. You can throw them out the window for the most part. I mean, you really can. You
yeah,
can.
I mean, you can, but I think a lot of what we saw this week is stuff that we kind of foreshadowed a little bit. Like Duke took a couple losses. Well, how much did we talk about how they're going to take their lumps early on in the season, right? I think we kind of saw that one coming. North Carolina, a lot of us were like, yeah, this is the same team. We kind of got to rank them number one because that's the way that we do these things. But, I don't know if they're necessarily perfect, right? Like it's not, I think the surprises are less who's not good and more like, oh, wow. Yeah, we probably underestimated a Matt Painter team. We probably underestimated what UConn could be. We underestimated Arizona. We're going to talk about all that.
I know we foreshadowed, but I mean, I will say 3 of the top 4 preseason teams are all the furthest thing. They're just not top 4 teams. Right now.
we're gonna get into that. Yeah,
I'm just saying you could foreshadow it all you want, but at the end of the day, that's where those teams were ranked in the preseason.
Fair.
And so the casual fan looks at that and it's like, yeah, Carolina's really good. Even Houston, guys. Houston beat Kent State by 5.
They were down with less than a minute left in that game.
Come on.
Isn't Kent State really good in the MAC though?
Yeah, Kent State's good, but their best player, Sincere Carey, shot 2 for 21 in that game. T.O.
That's why do I know that name? I know that name.
Because he's good. Like he's a good mid-major player.
Was he somewhere else before last year?
No, I think he hit a game winner last year in a tournament game or something like that.
That might be, but goes back to my.
What probably happened? You probably heard Sean Paul talking about him, is what it probably was.
That might have been it, but that goes back to my theory about a bunch of teams in Middle America who just are old.
Yes,
and a bunch of high majors are trying to figure it out. Now, Houston doesn't necessarily fall into that category, but the MAC is a tough league. The Mid-American Conference full of old, gritty dudes, except for Eastern Michigan. Like a bunch of old, gritty teams, and they're going to give teams fits in the beginning of the season.
Yep. So. That's it. Here's T.O.'s take on how Midwest basketball is completely overrated.
Quick cheers. I know we're not, and I have my dad mug here. But quick cheers to not only
I got my lemur mug.
We did the cheers last night, and I should have done this, and I didn't think about it. But cheers to all the players that were at the.
I got a Doris Burke bobblehead. I don't have any glass to cheer.
That's a fantastic bobblehead. Cheers to the players at the Maui, because I'm trying to get my son into it, and I'm trying to get my kids and everybody into it, and kind of understand the energy and how fun it is. And man, my son had an autograph book, and he got almost everybody from Tennessee. He got everybody from NC State. He got everybody from BYU. He got NC State and BYU at the airport, and they were so sweet to my kid. Like, they don't understand now, because I didn't understand when I was like, you try to be nice to everybody, but you don't understand how big of an impact like you make on some of these little kids. So good on you. Continue to do that. It is huge. Continue to be good to these little kids, because it shapes their existence moving forward. Like, it's awesome. Like, cheers to those teams.
Yeah, and those guys don't have to do it either. They don't have to do things like that. They don't have
BYU, Spencer Johnson, who I hope he's healthy. I don't know if he is or not, but he hurt his knee. But like, he was super sweet to my son, and then not only that, he made his teammates sign it. He's like, you're going to do this. So God bless all of you. I thought that was really cool. It was really sweet. My son loved Santi Vescovi. Like, he took a picture with like just awesome. Like, so appreciate you guys who do that stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool when players do it, not just at the college level, at the pro level, guys that really don't have to do stuff like that go out of the way and understand that it, like he made a fan for life, right?
Yeah,
your son's never going to forget that.
No, never. Kind of like he didn't forget Jabari Smith last year.
Yeah, there was a video that went viral over the weekend of some kid that was a Steph Diggs fan got to a Buffalo Bills game like 2.5 hours early and was sitting right along the wall and said, "Steph, will you play catch with me?" And Steph Diggs walked over, grabs the kid from the stands, brings him on the field, and goes out there and plays catch with him for like 5 minutes.
Changes the kid's life. Like changes his outlook on sports. Like,
never going to forget that. You got a fan for life. Steph Diggs can do literally anything, and that kid is going to fight for him forever. Probably on the internet, on YouTube comments, and on Elon Musk's Twitter.
But that's one of the cool things about like some of these smaller MTEs. Like when I say smaller, like or in proximity, like in a Battle for Atlantis, you see the players just walking. Like all the players are in one location. You don't have to bus anywhere. It's all right there, and so you see the players like walking through the casino to get to the games, walking through the shops. Like it's a cool place. If your team goes, whoever's listening, if your team goes, you need to go. It is really, really cool. Sorry, sidetrack. Got emotional.
I do. This actually brings up a good point because I think the PK 85, like the Invitational Legacy and the women's tournaments, awesome concept. Love what they did there. The only problem is it's in Portland. Yeah, and that's not like a destination. All due respect to the people of Portland. This is not a shot at your city. You're not Maui.
Portland.
You're not the Bahamas, right? And there's these tournaments have a hard enough time getting people to show up to like the Cayman Islands or to Jamaica or to Cancun or to all of these other beautiful destination places to watch their teams play. It's going to be hard to get people to go to Portland and spend that money to travel there and fill up 19,000 seat arenas for 4 straight days over Thanksgiving. Like that's a big ask. So the only problem I had with that event is that it very much felt like we were once again like playing in a bubble because there was just no atmosphere there. And the downside, as much as we love college basketball, so much of what makes college basketball special is like the actual environment. It's less what's happening on the court and more what these kids are playing in. You know what I'm saying? You're never going to get the highest level of basketball in college basketball. It's the pageantry of it, and that's the one downside.
It's the John Fantas of the world that make college basketball so good.
Yes, exactly.
And I say that in all sincerity. Like it's the John Fantas of the world. It's the cheerleaders. It's like so much fun around the game. It's not just the product.
Now you got me imagining John Fanta dressed up as a cheerleader. I think we know what John Fanta needs to be for
no skirts, Fanta.
Fanta. Before we get into the overreactions, Big Ten ACC Challenge news broke this morning. I think it was Andy Katz that broke the news. It's the ACC Big Ten Challenge is pretty much dead. The writing was kind of on the wall for this. The Big Ten is not part of the ESPN family of networks anymore. It looks like it might end up being like an ACC SEC challenge, and hopefully the Big Ten and the Big 12 will smarten up and create a challenge of their own. If they do it right, it'll be this week right after Thanksgiving when nothing else is going on. Load up those Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday slates. Make it happen. Your take on the death of the ACC Big Ten Challenge?
Well, it's certainly unfortunate, and it's one of the effects of changing landscape with conferences and whatnot. This had to happen with just what's going on with the Big Ten. The Big Ten is basically going all in on Fox, on NBC Peacock. There'll be a lot of hoops on Peacock in future years. And then you've got the CBS element to it as well. By the way, with Peacock, college hoops fans, Gonzaga, Baylor, Friday night in South Dakota, that game is on Peacock. That's Peacock's debut for college basketball. So that's an interesting.
So we got to buy Peacock in order to watch that happen.
Yes, you do.
Okay.
Landscape changing, folks. I'm sure you got thoughts on that. So, look, it's obviously unfortunate because this challenge has been awesome off of Feast Week for these teams to play marquee matchups. You're going to get North Carolina, Indiana this week. You're going to get Ohio State and Duke. In a normal year, under different circumstances, we'd be talking a ton about Illinois, Syracuse. I'm sorry, Orange, we're not talking about you because, frankly, you stink. The thing is, like, this is all part of the times. I don't think it's, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to live. The Big Ten ACC. The fact is, the ACC just has not been very good. It hasn't been very good. And as much as it's unfortunate, like, they'll move on here. They're going to figure things out with an ACC, SEC. It makes perfect sense. Here's the deal, folks. A little bit on the conference challenges. ACC, SEC challenge makes a lot of sense with the ESPN element to it. Both the SEC and ACC have networks through ESPN. They could build each other up all week long.
That was just announced. You know that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, literally just announced. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, so that makes sense. The Gavitt games between the Big Ten and Big East, that contract is up. It's up after next year. So the Big Ten has kind of been in a stare down there. They haven't moved much because the Big East television contract is up 2 years after this one, guys, with Fox. We'll see what happens there. But this makes a lot of sense for the Big Ten and Big 12 to unite because they're going to have the same rights partners. The Big 12, it's been reported the Big 12 has made an agreement with Fox Sports for some sort of sector, and basketball is included in that. So it would make sense for Big 10 and Big 12 to meet. You're probably going to have an ACC, SEC. You're going to have a Big 10, Big 12. I could see this, where all the ACC, SEC's on ESPN for a week, all the Big 12, Big 10's on FS1 for a week. That's basically what we're looking at. It'll be interesting to see if the Gavitt games expire, where the Big East fits into this whole equation, because they have a deal with the Big 12 guys. And that's the one problem, Rob. The Big East, Big 12 is this week. And the two leagues have agreed on this week. It starts up tomorrow with Baylor and Marquette. You've got Texas and Creighton Thursday night from Austin. Are you kidding me? What a huge game down in Austin. Another one for the Horns and the Blue Jays. So that's this week here between Big East and Big 12. I think you're going to see Big 12 and Big 10 get together off this. I think you'll see the Big 10 adjust. But yeah, it was a no-brainer. This is a television thing, folks, because the ESPN and the Big 10 have broken off their marriage. Neither party is going to do a conference challenge with each other. That's just how it is.
Yeah, that's one of the downfalls of the business of college sports is things like this go away. I don't entirely hate it. I don't either. I can kind of get behind changing some of those matchups, right? Like now we might be able to get Duke playing Arkansas.
Yes.
That'd be interesting, right? We can get North Carolina going up against someone like a Tennessee. We can get another North Carolina Alabama matchup, and maybe we get another 4 overtime snooze fest. It's not the worst thing in the world. Things change, but there are going to be great games. We just have to find a way to make sure that the start of the season is not just completely dull, right?
I'm happy. Yeah. Sorry. My bad.
Go ahead. Sorry. Do what you got. Say what you got to say, man.
I'm sorry for doing that. I'm happy because in proximity, the ACC, SEC just makes sense too. And there's a lot of trash talk between the conferences because there's some crossover. There's Georgia Tech, there's South Carolina, there's Clemson, there's Florida State, there's Florida. Like there's a lot right here and it's close. And, Georgia Tech's 2 hours away from Auburn. Like Clemson's 3 hours away from Tennessee. Like there's a lot of proximity. And I, to be honest with you, as much as I enjoyed playing in the ACC Big Ten Challenge, like for me, getting fired up to go way up and play Minnesota, it's like, is it there? Right.
How about Missouri, Kansas?
Right.
Well, wait, Big 12.
That's Big 12, but
I was going to say, are you telling us something about where's Kansas going?
Breaking news.
Oh, man, John Fanta of Fox Sports. According to John Fanta of Fox Sports, Kansas is going to the Big East. According to John Fanta of Fox Sports, Kansas is headed to the Big East. You guys heard it here first.
No.
Breaking news. News.
Well, and remember, Terrence, with the SEC thing, I mean, you got Texas and Oklahoma joining too. Like it's, there's so much. There's so many different possibilities. And I'm with you. Like, guys, I got to be honest with you. The part of the Big Ten ACC's also gotten a little bit stale.
Because you don't get the great matchups, right? You never necessarily get exactly what you want. It is what it is. Anyway, let's get into the overreactions for this week. I got some good ones for you, right? I got 6 of them written down. We're going to start with this. T.O., I'm going to you first on this one. Is the Big East now the best basketball conference in America since they've added Kansas?
I'm not sure.
All right, no, in all seriousness, Purdue is the best team in college basketball, T.O. Overreaction, underreaction, proper reaction? What do you think?
I'm overreaction. Right now, they're playing as well as anybody. I'll throw it that way. I really like Texas. I still think Houston's really, really good. I love Virginia too. The Purdue has somebody nobody else does, and Zach Edey. That's a huge thing. But as of right now, I think Purdue is playing as well as anybody. I'm not sure they're the best team in the country, even though they had a terrific performance. I really like Purdue. I love it's just college basketball is good this year. And they still have to be consistent from the perimeter consistently. If they can do that, there's not a lot of teams that can guard them, and they all fit together really, really well. The puzzle pieces fit. And when the puzzle pieces fit like that, if guys are willing to play together, it's going to look really good early. Are they going to be the best team in the country in 2 months? I don't know. As of right now, I think it could definitely be said that they're playing as well as anybody.
The Purdue Boilermakers deserve to be ranked in the top 3 of the AP Top 25.
I agree with that.
On this Monday. It is an overreaction to say that they are the best team in college basketball, but they have played the best basketball, and they just completed 2 games in which they outscored Gonzaga and Duke by a combined 159 to 122. They commanded both the Zags and the Blue Devils.
I got a stat for you, Fanta. They are the first.
And they held Duke.
Well, how about this? They are the first team to win back-to-back games against top 10 teams by more than 18 points since 1968 UCLA, before Kareem Abdul-Jabbar changed his name from Lou Alcindor. That's how long ago it was.
What makes me more bullish on Purdue than if you asked me about another Purdue team being the best in college basketball is I could say that's an overreaction, Rob, because they don't play defense. That is not true right now. This team is invested on the defensive end of the floor. And how could you not be when you have a 7'4" monster inside? You've got freshmen who have surprised all of us between Braden Smith and Fletcher Lawyer, what they've been able to do. They've exceeded my expectations. They fit right in. And guys, Ethan Morton is one of the most efficient guards in America right now. He's at 31 assists on the year to 7 turnovers. I think the only line that's even comparable to that at this point is Ryan Nembhard over at Creighton is right around there. Morton is making plays for other people. He's dishing the basketball extremely well. But this shouldn't come off as that much of a surprise. And the reason for it is Matt Painter could have any guards walk in and be able to develop, be able to hone in on them. Now you give Matt Painter a big man in Edey who's only gotten better. Here's the thing. It's a slight overreaction that Purdue is the best team in college basketball because honestly, Rob, I don't know who the best team in college basketball is, but I know Purdue's playing as well as anybody. Here's what's not an overreaction. At this moment, Zach Edey is the most impactful player in college basketball.
Yeah, you can build everything around him. What Purdue is so good at and what Matt Painter is so good at is getting guys to buy into the specific job that they're supposed to be doing and having people understand exactly what that job is. That's not an easy thing to do when everyone has a certain level of expectation, but I think he does a very good job identifying personalities, right? Identifying guys that aren't going to be me first, identifying guys that are going to be worried about Purdue winning more than how many shots I get and how many points I get. And that's not necessarily an easy thing to do when you're recruiting 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. You know, you're kind of playing armchair psychologist for what a child is going to be when they turn into an adult. So it's pretty impressive what he's been able to do with that. I think that they are right up there with the best teams in America. I think you guys are exactly right. I would not be shocked if they ended up being ranked number one in the country at some point. They were ranked number one in the country at one point last season. So T.O.
Right. Yeah.
Are they better than last year's team, the one that had Jaden Ivey, the one that had Trevion Williams? Is that an overreaction? Is that something where you're like, nah, no, come on, man. What are you doing, Rob? What are you talking about?
I don't. Here's the thing. Like, this team has the ability to improve because they're playing three freshmen significant minutes. Lawyer Smith and Kaufman Wren, like they're both getting all three of those guys are getting a lot of minutes. Those guys are going to continue to improve. This team doesn't have that go-to factor like Jaden Ivey was last year. And I know he struggled whenever they got beat in the tournament, but like he gave them a different level of, hey, we need something right now. Yes. Who can get us something without needing it fed in there. So I think that's the biggest difference between that team and this team. The Trevion Williams thing is interesting to me because sometimes I felt like he and Zach Edey were both really, really top 10 5-men in college basketball, but they kind of conflicted with each other's games. This year, there's only one of them, and you see the result of it because Zach Edey has been so good. Like, he's just getting more minutes. He's being featured more, and he's getting comfortable in his role. His numbers are absurd. Every game that they've had this year, he's been the MVP, according to KenPom. Mm-hmm. Every game. And a lot of that just has to do with, I think he probably could have done that last year, but he was splitting minutes. So now they know how to play around him. He's the guy in there, so that you get to be a little bit more stable in what you do offensively. They don't have that spark plug and that go get you one guy like they had with Jaden Ivey. I think that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, but they also, I think they're guarding better this year than they did last
year. They are. And there's more of an emphasis. Yeah, and you have to. When you're not as talented, you better guard. Mm-hmm. I would say this Purdue team isn't quite as talented as last year. Jaden Ivey was a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. So, like, I'm not talking out of turn here. But, like, you have to do all the other things well. Ball movement has to be crisp, all that stuff. And this team's doing that. And they're going to continue to do that. And I think they'll only get better. They're not as talented this year, but they're playing better together this year, and they're going to improve.
Yep. Fanta, you said that you think Purdue is like a clear-cut top 3 team. Who are the 2 teams that you would rank above them?
Yes. Houston is still my number 1 because I'm being stubborn, even though they didn't play like it against Kent State, but I really do believe in the Cougars.
I'm willing to chalk that up to playing on a Saturday, 2 days after Thanksgiving, when you're not in an MTE, probably in what was an empty for what is it, the Fertitta Center, Fertitta.
Yeah.
Fertitta.
Sounds like a breakfast quiche. That's what it sounds like.
It does. That's the guy who runs the UFC, right?
Yes,
Lorenzo Fertitta.
Yeah. They've got money pouring in there. Fertittas in Houston. Number 2 in my Fox Sports poll, shameless plug on this fine Monday. Number 2 is a team that I believe possesses the best front court 1-2 punch in the country thus far this season. The Arizona Wildcats are number 2 in my top 15 because I was super impressed with the level that
all right, hold on. I'm not going to cut you off before you get going on Arizona. My second overreaction for the week is Arizona is better this year than they were last season. Say what you got to say about Arizona, Fanta.
Yes, they are. That's not an overreaction. They are better than they were last year, even though they had some incredible individual talents. Even though they had 3 of the top 33 NBA draft picks, this team fits. And it fits into one that can give opposing teams even more nightmares. I'm talking about Azuolas Tubelis and Omar Ballo, who at this moment, folks, are averaging close to 40 points per game and over 18 rebounds per game. When you show up to play Arizona, you know that Tubelis and Ballo are going to do that. That's like clockwork for them. And it has been all season long. Courtney Ramey has done a nice job here in the short period of time. He's only played 3 games, but he's averaging 16 per game, has fit in, and Kerr Kriisa thus far has been better and has shown
really
improvement. Good. His feel for the game has gotten better. He's developing. He's taken a leap. And if you tell me that I'm going to get good Kirk Risa, I combine that with Pele Larson, with Tabellus and Ballo, great rim protection, great rebounding, the ability to throw in wrinkles. We're watching it right now in college basketball with another team that you're going to talk about, one that's out in Storrs, Connecticut. When you have the combination of 4 or 5 play, when you have bigs that can do different things, and you could create wrinkles and spacing and all those types of things, guys, like, we got to put respect on Tommy Lloyd's name. Yes. Because as much as he inherited great talent, he's doing a terrific job of molding that talent to fit really well. It's not an overreaction. I think Arizona is the best team in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I think that they are too. They are unbelievable running the floor. Azuolas Tubelis is Tio. His ability to like, we talk about quick release with shooters, right? Normally that's what you think of as guys that are coming off of a screen and getting a shot up. That dude's got a quick release in the post where as soon as he catches that, it's up off the glass. It's up. You got a little jump hook going in. It makes him very difficult to defend in the post. And I think that the combination of him and Oumar Ballo has just been so dominant. And you mentioned Kirk Risa. We got a Kirk Risa t-shirt. We partnered with Kirk Risa. Check out the merch store, field68.shop. You're talking about shameless plugs, Fanta. There you go. Completely shameless. Field68.shop. You got to go find that headband Kerr t-shirt. I also did I did a little bit of investigating. You know how he had the thinner headband on playing in Maui?
Yeah. What happened there?
So it was humid in the gym. Wearing the thick headband left him a little bit too sweaty. So he went with the thinner headband. I did some reporting on this. It was something that was bothering me. I got to the bottom of it. That is directly from a source, let's just say very close to Kirk.
It is Kirk Risa.
It is Kirk Risa, yes.
Yeah. No, I'm amazed at how much he's improved. Like, just from a stability factor, like, he's still this explosive scorer, but he's not losing his mind every time something good happens, or he's not losing his mind every time something bad happens. And this play isn't affecting the next play and the next play after that. That was his biggest downfall last year, in my opinion. But he's really improved. He's a nice player, really, really good player. I'm a sucker for a 2 big lineup. Like, I love it. We don't see enough of it these days. And whenever you have 2 guys that you don't have to be the fastest guy, but you have to put the effort in to run the floor. And both of those guys really do that. I'm going to go overreaction. This team is better than last year's team, just to be the contrarian, as Fanta says. But last year's team had a lot more length. Last year's team had more depth. They're 6 deep right now, really. I mean, if you're looking from a production standpoint, Cedric Henderson's kind of that extra guy. After that, like, is there any sort of significant production? I would argue not yet. That being said, I think Adama Ball's a nice player.
Yes.
I think Kylan Boswell will get there. He's still figuring it out. The game is really fast for him right now. Mm-hmm. Like, the game is flying for him. And look no further than when they were playing San Diego State, and the little guard that they had, the transfer, good player.
Darian Trammell.
Yeah, him. Yep. He got up there and pressured Boswell, and Boswell he was playing around with it. Like, you just got to get that sucker past half court and then let everybody else work for you. He doesn't realize that stuff yet because he's played with the ball so much, and especially at the high school level. So, like, he's got to adjust. By the end of the season, it could be this team doesn't have the length that last year's team does. But I like this Ballo to Bellis combo at the 4-5. They're going to overwhelm people at those spots. It's just the length isn't quite what it was. And I'm not sure the top level talent is quite what it was, but they fit together better. I think that's what you're looking at Arizona at.
For me, it's the defensive end. You lose Dalen Terry, who was just like a shutdown guy and a perfect versatile piece. And you lose Christian Coloco, who was one of the best defensive defenders that you're going to find. And again, switchable, shot blocker, rotate on the perimeter. I don't think that this team is quite as good defensively. I do think that they are much better on the offensive end, and they're going to be much more of like an efficient, just kind of mow you down kind of an offense. And that, I think that speaks volumes to what Tommy Lloyd can do and the way that he can get people to kind of buy into his system. Fanta, you mentioned UConn. Overreaction number 3.
Hey, that being said, a mow you down offense, they're number 1 in the country in pace still.
Yes.
Like, that's what's unique about them. Like, they're playing 2 bigs and they're still the fastest team in the country. That's unique.
Yeah, because that's all. Literally, as soon as they get a rebound, Tubelis is gone, sprinting, dead sprint. And the impressive thing, Tio, he's doing that in with 2 minutes left in the game, right? It's not just like the first half that he's doing that. He's doing it for 40 minutes every second that he's on the floor. And
keep in mind the shooting on this team is a lot better too.
Yes.
They're spacing the floor for those bigs. They're shooting 45% as a team.
It's amazing how much they can space the floor when they have two big guys that are playing out there. And it's not like the guy that you necessarily want shooting a bunch of threes. Fanta, you mentioned UConn. My third overreaction is that UConn is a top 5 team in America this year.
Top 10. Top 10. I don't know if I'm ready to say top 5 because let's start with the really good. This team is as deep as any team in college basketball. Any team. If you had me do depth rankings, I would probably put UConn number 1 because they fit Dan Hurley. This is a team that really fits Danny Hurley. And to be able to do what UConn wants to do, they play so hard. They come at you in waves. They rebound the ball. I mean, they out-rebounded Iowa State. It was comedic. It was 48-19 on the glass. 48-19 against a team out of the Big 12. That's unbelievable. For a big man to win the PK85 Invitational MVP award, and for the big man not to be named Adama Sanogo shows you how deep
that's ludicrous, by the way. That is completely.
I told you last night, Rob.
Yeah, I know. It completely blows. Donovan Clingan played 11 minutes against Alabama. He played 19. Like what? How did he? He was awesome. Look, he was awesome against Iowa State. I don't want to take that away from him. But you're going to tell me that dude was the best player on UConn last week? He played 11 minutes against Alabama.
Who voted on that?
I don't know who voted on that.
I can tell you what happened. It was, make no mistake about it, it was someone going to UConn sports info director, Phil Charters. Phil Charters going to his coaching staff, and the coaching staff saying, hey, let's give the freshman class some love. We don't want egos with the upperclassmen. So let's give Clingan MVP and Caravan. We'll put Caravan on the all-tournament team. Guys, if anything, if you want to make an argument about anyone, I would argue Andre Jackson could have been MVP because I thought Andre Jackson's fingerprints were all over this tournament and all over the game against Iowa State. 10 points, 13 rebounds, 5 assists. 5 assists. He was great. Connecticut has it. They are loaded. They're extremely dangerous to play. I don't think they're top. I don't know about if I'm ready to say top 5, but I am ready to say this. They're a top 10 team in the country. They're the best they've been since their national championship season in 2013-14. And what I love about them is they don't have to have Jordan Hawkins and Adama Sanogo be great for them to win. And that, to me, is really, really good. It bodes well for them. And I will say this. At the start of this season, I said this, Creighton is the clear front runner in the Big East. That is no longer the case. Creighton is great, but so are the Connecticut Huskies. And there is going to be a race at the top of the Big East between the Blue Jays and Connecticut.
Here's an amazing stat for you. UConn beat Iowa State, who just knocked off number 1 North Carolina. They beat Iowa State by 18 points.
You can go ahead and stop saying number 1 Carolina.
They're still number 1. It's 10:36 in the morning right now, and they are still number 1 on the AP poll, number 1 on the coaches poll. So I can say it at this very moment.
Disappointing team.
Anyway, Jordan Hawkins played 6 minutes. He got a technical foul early in the second half last night. I don't think he came back in. Right? I don't think he came back into the game at the end. That was his 4th foul, and then they just sat him the rest of the game. Adama Sanogo played 22 minutes, 5 shots. The 2 guys that we said have to be superstars. I remember this on the Big East show. We said they have to be superstars for UConn to have a chance to win. Combined for 6 points on 9 field goal attempts, and UConn beat Iowa State by 18. That says a lot.
Yep,
I think. Yes.
They're legitimately 9 deep. And Donovan Clingan just changes it. Like they have so many different ways they can score. Andre Jackson, man, he's really impressed early. He's just exuding confidence at this point in the season. Like you can tell.
That's not always a good thing, man. We talked about it last night because Andre can make some highlight reel plays, and he can also do some things that is just like, what the hell was that?
Yeah, but
what do you see there?
Yeah, I'm with you. I also think like he's improved a lot, and he's just he explodes off the screen whenever you're watching him play. Like bouncing, he had a couple of blocks yesterday during our show. We did the After Dark show last night. That was just like, holy cow! Like climbing the rim, and they have guys that you can run offense for. Jordan Hawkins, you can run offense. You can set some down screens. You can run some floppy action.
Yes.
You have guys that you can throw it in the post. Adama Sanogo. You have pick and roll guys. I think Hassan Diarra is a very good player. And then you have a lob threat in Donovan Clingan. You can score in so many different ways.
Yes.
And they guard.
They guard and they move without the basketball. Mm-hmm. And nobody has impressed me more in the way he moves without the basketball than Alex Karaban. I think this kid has a chance to be one of the great UConn players because I think he's going to stay around. I think he could be a 3-4 year player. Like I love him, love his game, love the way he plays. He's committed. He's so committed. He has no social life, and he loves basketball. He's going to tell you that. And if you want to get better at basketball, go to snowy stores because you could hoop all.
There's nothing there but rains.
There's nothing exactly. There's nothing there but orange balls and orange rims, and that's what he can do. I love their makeup. I mean, I think, like you said, they run really good action, but now the action's working. You know why? They got shot makers. Joey Calcaterra has been better than I thought he would be. He hits big shots for this team and has come up big. And you said it, Hassan Diarra at Texas A&M versus Hassan Diarra at UConn. It just fits better at UConn. Kid's from Queens. He's got a New York City game. He's tough. He makes things happen. And Aline hasn't necessarily been great, but like he's just a steady guy who has NCAA tournament experience. And guys, one thing I'll say about Tristan Newton, like last night, Iowa State started to creep back in. I think they got within 5 or 7. And UConn finds Newton in the corner. And when he's in catch and shoot mode, it's going in. He's wired to score. He's wired to hit those shots. UConn has shot makers. And when you combine how hard they play with the depth they have in the front court, last year's Connecticut team, Rob Dauster, showed up to Buffalo half of what they were previously. You know why? They were worn down. They were worn down, and you knew who was going to do it for them. It was R.J. Cole, Tyrese Martin, or Adama Sanogo. This year's UConn team, you don't exactly know who's going to do it on a given night. And for what Dan Hurley preaches and for what their style is with how hard they go up and down, they're a legit, I love that you use the word legit, T.O., a legit 9 deep America. This is not some fake. They're deep, they're low, they got pieces, they got like when they come to, no offense, when they come to the TV studio and you hear an analyst just drop like they're deep, they got talent, they got this. No. Connecticut is that deep. They go 9 deep.
They got a bunch of guys that understand what their job is and embrace what their job is, right? That's the role allocation and role acceptance are 2 of the most important things when you are that deep, right? Joey California knows that when he's coming off the bench, he's coming in there to make a couple shots and then get back out, right? Andre Jackson knows that his job on the defensive end is to just fuck shit up. That's really all he's out there to do. Go out there, run around, be the insane athlete, the non-human that you are, block some shots, get some steals, go get some rebounds you shouldn't get, go save a ball out of bounds that you probably shouldn't be able to get to, and start a transition, get out in a fast break, go get an offensive rebound. Like just go out there and be a crazy athlete and play your balls off for 28 minutes. And that's what he does. Alex Karaban knows I think he's going to end up being an NBA player, Alex Karaban. But he knows how to play kind of within himself and play a role and do a job. You mentioned Tristan Newton. He's just kind of, he knows what his limitations are, right? Like he's not a guy that's going to get all the way to the rim, that's going to explode to the rim. He's not going to try to do it against some of these longer teams, some of these longer defenses. So I'm very bullish on what they are right now, what they could end up being. And I don't think that we've seen their ceiling yet because we haven't seen Jordan Hawkins really get it going. And that's a guy you heard all offseason from that staff, how good Clingan looked, how good Karaban looked, the development of Samson Johnson, like some of these other guys. And what they said to a man was like, Jordan Hawkins is going to be a killer, right? Jordan Hawkins is going to come in and be like, he might be our best shooter since Ray Allen. And we haven't seen him get going yet. So I'm I still think that there's a ceiling there for them to continue to improve. And I would be lying if I said I wasn't really, really excited about what this season and what this team could end up being. All right. So here's overreaction number 4. And we can start rolling through these a little bit more quickly. There wasn't a top 20 team at the Champions Classic when we saw them play, T.O. Actually, no, Fancy, you were there, right? There wasn't a top 20 team there. Is that crazy?
At the Champions Classic in Indianapolis?
At the Champions Classic in Indianapolis.
That's an overreaction. That's an overreaction because Kansas is a top 20 team.
Yep.
In college basketball. Oh, come on. You're honestly going to react to a loss to Tennessee, who I think is one of the better teams too?
Right now, in this very moment, I don't think that Kansas is one of the top 20 teams in college basketball. Now, if you're asking me I think that Bill Self is going to figure out a way to make this team be one of the top 10 teams in America? Yes. He's got a month before we really get into the play. They can't shoot, man. They can't shoot, and they don't have a 5-man. And it just, with the way that the roster fits together, you can't really play KJ Adams at the 5 because he's not quite good enough defensively to be Mark Vital. You can't throw the ball to him in the post. You can't space it out. He's not a passer in short rolls. He's just kind of out there. Jalen Wilson can't make shots. Kevin McCullough can't make shots.
Yeah,
the only guy that you have that's a shooter is Grady Dick, and Grady Dick is just like a guy that gets isolated on the perimeter. Yeah, you play 2 small guards that can't really do anything offensively, right?
Might be the worst team in the Big 12.
Look, honestly,
Fanta. Overreaction Monday.
I think they might be right now. I would say Texas is better than them. I would say Baylor is better than them, and I would say that they are kind of right there with Texas Tech. It's kind of a, do you like vanilla ice cream? Do you like strawberry ice cream? Are you more of a mint chocolate chip guy? Do you like pistachio? Do you want a little bit of whipped cream on top of it with the sprinkles? Do you do the rainbow sprinkles? Do you do chocolate sprinkles? Do you want any of that chocolate sauce on there? Is it more like caramel? The thing that I really like that they got down to my little local
You're that down on them?
Strawberry sauce. I think they're like a top 20 right now. They're a top 25 team.
Terrence, you just saw them.
They're not as big as they usually are. I'll give you that.
But they're still one of the 20 best teams in college basketball. 20.
Yeah. Jalen Wilson's a dude.
But he's one of the best players in the country.
Yeah, he's a dude. They're very good still. They are relying a little bit too much on him. They just got their
ass kicked by a team that lost to Colorado.
Stop that shit. Stop it. Tennessee, if I were to pick a top 6 or 7, Tennessee would be in that mix. They are very good, especially when their guards are playing well. They are very good. And those guards played their nuts off. They were really, really impressive. Like Tennessee was really impressive. And not only that, they just beat the heck out of Kansas because they were just bigger. And if they're hitting shots, Grady Dick is very schemable. He is very schemable. Like, we've given him his flowers. That's good. He's a very good shooter. If you sit in his pocket, he's not getting that shot off because it's a bit of a windup. So that's kind of the issue with them right now is they don't have anything besides Jalen Wilson.
You said sit in his pocket. Just explain what that means real quick for people who don't know.
No, if you keep your hand there close to his chest, right in his sternum, he's not going to be able to get the shot off, because he brings it right in front of his face. And whenever they put an athlete on, Max Klesmet from Wisconsin locked his ass down. Mm-hmm. And Max is a good player. Max is not an NBA level player or a big time defender that you're going to see in the Sweet 16. Like, in all respect to Max, he had a nice weekend, but he's not like Julian Phillips sat in there. Like, there was nothing. He wasn't getting a shot off. And the ones that he did were from 40 feet. So, and I'm willing to live even with Grady Dick taking 40 footers consistently. They're going to figure it out. KJ Adams is a nice lob threat. That I don't know that that's the issue as much
as
there's
no spacing to get him those lobs. Though.
That's right.
That's the issue. Right. You could just sit everybody right in the paint. You have one person sit there right in Grady Dick's lap and to everybody else in the paint. And how are you going to like? There's no, you can't score.
Yeah, they got to hit shots. Like that's what it comes down to with Kansas. They have to hit some more shots if they're going to play smaller. Like, McCullough's not shooting it. They're shooting 33% as a team. Like, they've got to hit shots in order to open things up for Jalen Wilson, who's much more comfortable getting to his right hand and just using his physical powers. I'm just going to call them powers, using his physical presence to get to the rim and to that 8 to 10 foot range where he's so good. They don't hit shots, they're in trouble. And they have a bunch of guys that aren't necessarily known for that. So that's kind of where the issue lies at this point.
Yeah, I think they need to go Jalen Wilson at the 5. Go full small ball. Jalen Wilson at the 5, McCullough at the 4, get MJ Rice out there, get Grady Dick out there and play DeJuan Harris, and then rotate in the bigs. Then start getting Ernest Uday 8 to 10 to 12 minutes here and there, getting him, learning him, teaching him how to kind of play that role that David McCormick played. Get KJ Adams in there when you want to mix things up and get a little bit more athletic and a little bit tougher. But start with Jalen Wilson, who, by the way, like, he's definitely never missed leg day. Like, that dude probably does squats in his sleep.
Yeah, he's a strong dude. And he looks much bigger in person too. If they're shooting 33%, they're shooting 33. I'm going to let you go, fans. I'm sorry, but they're shooting 33% with Grady Dick shooting 21 of 44. So take him out of there, and you can basically run a box and one and just pack that paint.
Exactly.
That's a problem, and that's the thing. Like Grady Dick too in the Champions Classic, he came around late. They needed that burst, or else they don't end up beating Duke. But I'm going to take it a step further. I can't believe I'm doing this.
Do it.
Your original question was, at the Champions Classic Fanta, did we not see one of the 20 best teams in the country, top 20 team? Well, here's the thing. To me, I still believe that Duke is a top 20 team in college basketball because they made it to the championship game. They lost to the team that I believe is the nation's third best team at the moment in Purdue. Like, I thought Duke, I actually like the way Duke has played this season. I thought yesterday they got beat by a red hot team. And to me, Jeremy Roach, for the most part, has taken on the role that Terrence talked about over the offseason that he needs to take on. Their freshmen got to figure it out, guys. They're still figuring it out. Some of these kids are trying to figure through things. I thought Tyrese Proctor was encouraging, like the role that you talked about, Rob, that he needs to take on for this team as a shot maker. Thought he did that to a degree over the weekend. So to me, like, Duke and Kansas are still top 20 teams, and it's really hard. Like, it's really hard for my brain to compute, even though they were a non-story during Feast Week. Like, guys, if Kentucky's not one of the 20 or 25 best teams in college basketball, then that is a major indictment on John Calipari. I still think Kentucky's one of the 20 best teams in college basketball. Your question is an overreaction.
I don't right now. I don't think Kentucky is. There's a lot of structural issues there. I will say this: we talked about Kansas, right? Kansas.
Where's
right
the
now
structural where are the structural issues at Kentucky? They've got a good point guard. They've got shooting. They've got a stud on the wing. They have the National Player of the Year at the 5. They have an athletic 4 who can hit a 15-footer. Where's the structural? It's not structural.
At the very top. At the very top.
Okay. So that's fine. I just looked up what Kansas's shooting percentage was. If you take out Grady Dick, it's 20%.
Yeah. If you wanna know right now, T.O., you know what I'm about to do?
Tell me.
I'm about to whip it out. I'm about to whip out my Torvik.
Bust your Torvik out.
Do you know where Kansas is right now on Torvik? If you only look, if you take out all of their preseason stuff and only look at from the time the game started, right? Do you know where Kansas ranks on Torvik right now? 51st. They're 18th on KenPom. They're a borderline not top 20 team right now based on the way they started the season, but I have trust in them to be able to get there. We talked about this last night. I don't want to reiterate it too much. I'm still in on Duke being good. Kentucky's got the pieces to be able to get there, in Michigan State, it's very hard for me to judge them right now, missing a couple of key pieces on that roster. All right. Arkansas will win the SEC. T.O., I'm going to you first on this one. You got 2 minutes.
I think that's a overreaction / underreaction, and I think they're in the top 2. I think it's possible. I'm not willing to completely bite the bullet with them yet.
So it's just a reaction?
Well, yeah, maybe. I'm straddling the fence so hard on that one. It's between them and Tennessee, in my opinion. Them and Tennessee. I was really impressed with Tennessee. They are enormous, and they're old. Mm-hmm. If their guards shoot it well, they're really good. If they don't, it could be an issue. But if Nick Smith decides to come back, or not decides, that's the wrong terminology. But if he gets healthy and comes back, then
so
it
Fanta is
changes
sending
Arkansas.
Kansas to the Big East, and you're out here accusing Nick Smith of ducking competition and sitting
I'm
out.
not the only one doing that. So let's.
I know you're not.
If he comes back, he changes their dynamic. Anthony Black has been terrific. They're very good. They have a lot of pieces. Anthony Black is much better than a lot anticipated.
Oh, he's really good. Ricky Council has been really good in the role.
Nobody has taken advantage of a transfer more than Ricky Council before. Like, that dude has been really, really good. He's big. He looks bigger in an Arkansas uniform for whatever reason, but like he's a nice player. And he's one of those that has benefited from Nick Smith not playing early in the season.
They did not necessarily expect this from. Like, we've seen Trevon Brazile come out here and have an unbelievable start to the year. Well,
right.
Like, you ask anyone that Arkansas staff, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, this guy's he's a pro. Like, this dude's a fucking stud. Like, don't say anything yet, but like, he's really right." They didn't necessarily have the same whispers when it came to Ricky Council, so that's been really nice to see. And Fanta, I do think that these rosters that Musk can put together, he's so good at finding guys that can go get it on their own, like they get a bucket by themselves, that maybe weren't necessarily used that way at a previous school.
The best game of last week was Creighton, Arkansas.
Yep.
And it's unbelievable that I'm saying this. I took more away from the team that lost the game. I can't believe I'm saying that, but it's true. Arkansas showed me they belong and that they can win the SEC, and that I would pick them to win the SEC. Their toughness and intensity level are off the charts. And that's must. But the fact that he can get that out of freshmen, there might not be a freshman more fit to his program than Jordan Walsh is fit to Arkansas. He is nails. He defends. He gets up in you. He makes you work for everything you're going to get. And Anthony Black is so quick and such a terrific playmaker that sometimes when you have a team loaded with freshmen, they have a very difficult time throwing the ball into the basket. Arkansas did a great job, and this goes back to Muss. Muss is an elite roster constructor. He brought in guys that fit to his ways, that are explosive in the way they can score, and Trevon Brazile and Ricky Council IV are just that, and showed it. By the way, the Arkansas Razorbacks have this title belt. Field of 68 should make a belt. We'll hand it out to them. I will personally pay for this. They are the heavyweight dunking champions in college basketball.
Oh, they got freaks. They got freaks up and down. Jordan Walsh, Trevon Brazile, Ricky Council. The Ricky Council had one against was it who they play in the third place? It was San Diego State. San Diego State, right? He had one. He comes down on the break. And he's come dribbling with his right hand, and he does a Euro step where he brings the ball over like this, and Euro's around the dude, jumps off his left foot, and then goes up and dunks it reverse. I was like, where the hell did that come from?
Yeah.
What in the world was that?
They're really good, man.
Yeah, they're really, really good.
Really good.
I have one more. I
think it's Tennessee and Arkansas, and that's being mean to Kentucky. It's the same three. Alabama's good. They're in that. They're like kind of in that tier.
But Auburn fans are getting mad. 7-0 on the season.
Next question. Next question.
I'm off. I'm off the Auburn bandwagon.
It's amazing. Here's what I will say. I'm not disagreeing with you. I will say I don't think that they're the 13th best team in the country, and they're going to be top 15 again in the AP poll. However, I understand you're not in on them, but they're not as bad as you guys say they are.
No, like they're like a top 25, top 30 team in America. Like I think that they are.
I want you to make a top 20 because you don't have these teams in the Champions Classic.
All right, I'll roll through right now. I'm going to bring up I'm going to go to Ken Palm and just bring up a list of teams, and I'll tell you if I think Texas, Houston, Arizona, UConn, Purdue, Virginia. To me, like that's kind of the sixth best. I think that's probably the top tier.
Okay.
Right?
Throw Tennessee in there. If you're not, you're wrong.
Well, I mean, then I would have like Tennessee's that next group. I need to see the consistency, right? Like I can't get that Colorado game out of my mind. I know how good they can be when they're at their best. Tennessee, I will put in there. Baylor, I will put in there. Gonzaga, I will put in there. Creighton, I will put in there. Indiana, I'll put in there. That's 11, right?
11.
Yep. Arkansas, definitely in there.
I had them ahead of those teams, but go on.
This isn't like the I'm just giving you the
you're
like,
picking
teams
us. You're picking 20 for us. Yeah.
I think Alabama is in there as well. I'm high on them, especially as Brandon Miller starts to figure that thing out. Like he's really good. What is that? 13 teams?
Yeah.
I am still in on San Diego State. I think Illinois needs to be in that conversation. I think UCLA needs to be there. I said Indiana already, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Texas Tech, get them in there. I think Texas Tech is really good. And look, I know I'm kind of going back on this. I still think that you have to have Duke in that conversation, right? Duke and North Carolina, get both of them in there. And that gets you to 19. Right there.
Kansas. Kansas.
Yeah, Kansas.
I think, well, all right. So that's when you get to the conversation, I think, where you can put Kansas in there. Right now, I don't. They're
not a top 19 team in the country.
I think
they're not a top 19.
I think if they played Maryland right now on a neutral court, who do you think wins?
Kansas.
Right now.
Kansas.
Oh,
I'm Kansas. It's
I don't know.
It's going to be a good game though.
Yeah.
Look, I love my man. You guys know I love my man Kevin Willard. However, they won an MTE that featured St. Louis, Providence, and Miami. Like let's relax on. They beat 3 teams that at the end of the day are kind of like average to good. They haven't beat anybody great. Kansas beat Duke.
Kansas scored 59.
Kansas literally beat a team in your top 20.
Kansas, they scored 59 points against a Duke team that didn't have Derek Whitehead and had Derek Lively for like 12 minutes, something like that.
If the queen had balls, she'd be the king.
Exactly. That's my point.
I do like the banter. Look, I like this. We're going to now debate Kansas all season long.
Yeah. No, I don't think that they are very good right now, but they're coached by Bill Self. They're gonna figure out a way to make this thing work. Like they're gonna start doing something differently. He's gonna find an answer. I have no doubt by the end of the year they're gonna be right there in the mix for the Big 12 title. Maybe even be the best team in that conference. Right? I just think right now they're not very good because they can't shoot and they don't have a 5-man. That's a bad combination.
Give DeJuan Harris his flowers too, by the way.
Yeah, he wasn't very good against was it Tennessee he fouled out or Wisconsin?
It was Tennessee.
Yeah. They'll get there. Right. Same thing. I think Duke will get there too. And if John Calipari is good at his job, I think Kentucky will find a way to get there. I just think right now, all 3 of those teams are just they're just blah. They're not fun to watch. Like when Texas is playing Creighton, like I want to watch that game. When Creighton played Arkansas, I want to watch that game. If Duke is going to play, who do they play in the ACC Big Ten Challenge?
Duke's playing Ohio State.
Like, whatever. I'll watch it, but I'm not excited about what. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think it's a really good game between really good freshmen.
Yeah, that's fine. Whatever. All right. Listen, we've been here for an hour.
By the way, Kentucky, like you said, if Cal figures it out, like, dude, how much more time does he need to figure it out? He had them for their.
That's fair.
Their trip.
I know. You're preaching to the choir. I've been leading the Cal can't coach bandwagon.
But here's the thing too, is like he comes out and he says something along the lines of like, hey, we have to be patient with this team. Why?
You've had your time.
That was
had your time. Like what
do you mean?
What he's trying to do
is team. He's trying national player of the year. Like you bring back shooting. You have all he's trying to do with your best players. No, why do we have to be patient? There's no need for us to be patient.
He's trying to. Tio, you got to understand that is an insane fan base that is going to tweet at those players, that is going to yell at those players when they go to the grocery store, that is going to get on them. And what he's trying to do is keep them from getting like crucified when they go out in public, right? Take the pressure off of them, put the pressure on himself. He didn't do that very well.
You're the coach at Kentucky. Kentucky and patience go together like Jeff Goodman and Seth Greenberg. They don't.
Not a good next.
And with that, the Field of 60 here at the DTF podcast. It's a wrap.